The dining room felt like it was closing in on me. 23 pairs of eyes, aunts, uncles, cousins I barely knew, all staring as my father stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Before we eat," his voice cut through the Thanksgiving chatter, "I need to address something serious." My fork clattered against my plate. 9:47 p.m. I'll never forget that time because I checked my phone, thinking maybe this was a nightmare I could wake up from. $30,000 is missing from the family trust fund. He pulled out a bank statement, his hand shaking, not from emotion but from what I'd later realize was calculated performance. And according to these transactions, my daughter is responsible. The worst part wasn't the accusation itself. It was watching my mother's face drain of color, seeing my younger brother's mouth fall open in shock, hearing my grandmother gasp. The worst part was knowing that in that moment, every single person in that room believed him. But what happened next? What I discovered in the following 72 hours, it didn't just clear my name, it tore our family apart and rebuilt it into something completely different. 6 months earlier, everything seemed normal. Well, as normal as my family ever got. I was 24, working as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm in Portland, living in a studio apartment that cost way too much, and trying to pay down my student loans. My father, Richard Castellano, was a commercial real estate developer, the kind of man who wore custom suits to family barbecues and checked his phone during my birthday dinners. We weren't close. We'd never been close, but we were civil. Christmas cards, obligatory phone calls, the occasional lunch where he'd spend 45 minutes talking about his latest property acquisition while I nodded and picked at my salad. The family trust fund had been set up by my grandfather before he died. $250,000 split between his 3 grandchildren, me, my brother Marcus, and our cousin Jake. We couldn't access it until we turned 25, but we could see the statements, watch it grow, dream about what we'd do with our share. I checked mine religiously, every month, like clockwork. The balance in March was $83,477.23, my third of the original amount plus 15 years of compound interest. Then came the first red flag. It was a Tuesday morning in April when I logged into the trust account and the screen loaded. $71,234.56. I blinked. Refreshed the page, checked the date. Maybe I'd somehow pulled up an old statement, but no. Current balance, $71,234.56. $12,000 had vanished. I called the bank immediately, my fingers fumbling with my phone. The customer service rep put me on hold 3 times before finally explaining that there had been a withdrawal authorization filed 2 weeks prior. Who authorized it? My voice came out higher than I intended. The account trustee, Richard Castellano. My stomach dropped. That's my father, but this is my portion of the trust. He can't just... According to our records, Mom, the trustee has discretionary authority over distributions until each beneficiary reaches age 25. I hung up and immediately called my father. Dad, there's money missing from my trust account. A pause. Then that familiar dismissive tone. I had to make a temporary withdrawal for some estate expenses. Legal fees related to your grandfather's property in Nevada. It's all legitimate. I'll replace it before you turn 25. That's 7 months away. You took $12,000 without even telling me. Sweetheart, I'm the trustee. I don't need your permission. It's all documented. Don't worry about things you don't understand. That phrase, things you don't understand. He'd been saying it my entire life. When I asked why I couldn't take advanced math in 8th grade, when I questioned why he never came to my college graduation, when I wondered aloud why Mum always seemed so quiet at family gatherings. Things you don't understand. I called Marcus. My brother was 22, still in grad school, studying environmental science at Berkeley. "Check your trust balance," I told him, "right now." I heard keyboard clicking, then, "Holy shit, mine's down 18,000. He took from yours too?" "Apparently. Jesus, Emma, what is he doing?" That's when I decided to do something I'd never done before. I started documenting everything, every conversation, every statement, every interaction with the bank. My friend Rachel, we'd been roommates in college, and she was now a paralegal, came over that night with wine and legal pads. "Okay," she said, spreading papers across my coffee table. "Show me everything." We spent 4 hours building a timeline. The first withdrawal was in March, $12,000 from my account. Then April, $18,000 from Marcus's account. Then May, another $8,000 from mine. "Has he touched Jake's account?" Rachel asked. Jake was our cousin, Uncle Tom's son. I hadn't talked to him in months, but I texted him, "Can you check your trust balance?" His response came back in under a minute. "Why? Did something happen?" "Just check it, please." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "It's fine, same as last month. What's going on?" Rachel and I looked at each other. "He's only taking from you and Marcus," she said slowly. "Why?" I confronted him at his office, June 14th, 2:30 p.m. I remember because I'd taken half a personal day from work, my hands sweating as I walked through the gleaming lobby of Castellano Properties. His assistant, Margaret, who'd known me since I was in middle school, gave me a sympathetic smile. "He's on a call, honey, but you can wait in his office." The office was exactly what you'd expect. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art that probably cost more than my car, a desk the size of my kitchen table. When he walked in, he wasn't surprised to see me. "Emma, I assume this is about the trust. You've taken $38,000 from my and Marcus's accounts combined, in 3 months, and you haven't touched Jake's." He sat down, pressed his fingers together in that way he did when he was about to deliver a lecture. The Nevada property taxes came due earlier than expected. There were complications with the probate. These things happen in estate management. "Then why didn't you take equally from all 3 accounts?" "Jake's portion is earmarked for his MBA program. Your Uncle Tom and I discussed it." "And you didn't think to discuss it with me? Or Marcus? It's our money, Dad." His expression hardened. "It's trust money, which I manage, which I have been managing responsibly for 15 years, while you were busy failing at piano lessons and dropping out of pre-med." There it was, the twist of the knife he couldn't resist. "I want documentation," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Every withdrawal, every expense, every receipt related to these estate costs. You'll get a full accounting when you turn 25, as legally required. I want it now." He stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. "Emma, I don't have time for this paranoid nonsense. I've got a meeting in 10 minutes. Go back to work. Stop creating problems where there aren't any." I didn't move. "If everything's legitimate, you should have no problem showing me the documentation." "Get out of my office." "Dad, get out!" His voice echoed off the glass. Through the window, I could see Margaret jump at her desk. I left, but not before I took a photo of the papers stacked on his desk, the ones he'd hastily covered when I'd brought up documentation. Rachel enhanced the photo that night. Modern smartphones are miraculous things when you know how to manipulate the exposure and contrast. The document on top was a bank statement, not for the trust, for a personal account, his personal account. And there, highlighted in yellow, were deposits matching almost exactly the amounts withdrawn from the trust. March 15th, $12,000 deposit. April 22nd, $18,000 deposit. May 17th, $8,000 deposit. "He's stealing from you," Rachel said. "He's literally transferring your inheritance into his own account." My hands started shaking. "But he's a developer. He makes good money. Why would he—" "I don't know, but we need to take this to a lawyer, like yesterday." I couldn't afford a lawyer, not a good one. My savings account had $3,200 in it, barely enough to cover rent and student loans for 2 months, let alone legal fees. But Marcus could. His girlfriend's father was an attorney who specialized in estate law. Within 24 hours, we were sitting in David Chen's corner office in downtown Portland, laying out everything. Mr. Chen was in his 50s, with wire-rimmed glasses and the kind of calm demeanor that made you feel like everything might actually be okay. "This is embezzlement," he said after reviewing our documents. "Clear cut. The discretionary authority of a trustee doesn't extend to personal use of trust funds, but we need to prove that's where the money went." "I have the photo of his bank statement," I offered. "Which you obtained without permission. A judge might not allow it as evidence. We need official records, bank subpoenas, documentation from the trust itself." "How long will that take?" "If he fights it, 6 months, maybe more." 6 months, half a year of this hanging over me, half a year of my father knowing I was coming for him, half a year of family dinners and holidays and, oh God, Thanksgiving. "He's hosting Thanksgiving this year," I said. "My mom, she does it every year. The whole family comes, aunts, uncles, cousins." "Don't go," Marcus said immediately. But I knew I had to. Skipping would look like guilt, like I had something to hide. And more than that, part of me wanted to see him squirm, wanted him to know that I knew. Mr. Chen filed the initial complaint on November 15th, requesting a full forensic audit of the trust, immediate suspension of my father's authority as trustee, and restitution of all misappropriated funds. My father received the legal notice on November 20th. Thanksgiving was November 28th. I should have seen it coming. The way he'd always operated, attack before you can be attacked, control the narrative, make yourself the victim. But I didn't expect him to do it in front of everyone, to weaponize our entire family against me. The dining room was packed, 23 people crammed around the extended table, the air thick with the smell of turkey and sweet potatoes, and tension I'd thought only Marcus and I could feel. Mom had outdone herself with the decorations. Fall leaves scattered across the tablecloth, candles that probably cost more than they should. Everything perfect on the surface, like always. I was sitting between my Aunt Carol and my cousin Sophie, pushing stuffing around my plate, when Dad stood up. The room fell silent. "Before we eat, I need to address something serious." My heart stopped. Marcus, across the table, caught my eye. His face had gone pale. $30,000 is missing from the family trust fund. Gasps around the table. Uncle Tom leaned forward. Grandma put her hand to her chest. "I've been managing this trust for 15 years, responsibly, carefully, making sure your grandfather's legacy was protected for his grandchildren." His voice caught, perfectly timed, perfectly performed. "But someone has been making unauthorized withdrawals, forging signatures, manipulating account records." He pulled out a stack of papers, bank statements, transaction records, all of them with my signature. Except I'd never signed them. I'd never even seen them. "Emma," he looked directly at me, and I saw it, the calculation behind the pain in his eyes. According to these documents, you've been withdrawing money from the trust for the past 6 months, nearly $30,000 total. That's not true. My voice came out as a whisper. I never. The signatures are right here. He passed the papers to Uncle Tom. Dated, notarized, your signature on every single one. I didn't sign those. I stood up so fast my chair tipped backward. This is insane. I'm the one who filed the complaint. I'm the one who discovered you were stealing. Emma, Mom's voice, quiet but sharp. Sit down. Mom, you can't possibly believe. The evidence is right here, Dad continued. I didn't want to bring this to the family. I wanted to handle it privately. But when Emma filed that fraudulent lawsuit against me, trying to cover her own tracks by accusing me, I realized I had no choice. The room erupted, everyone talking at once, Aunt Carol's hand on my arm, Uncle Tom demanding to see the documents, my cousin Jake looking at me like I'd just shot his dog. I have proof, I shouted over the chaos. I have his bank statements showing deposits matching the withdrawals. I have bank statements you illegally obtained by breaking into my office, Dad said calmly. Bank statements you likely fabricated to support your false accusations. Mr. Chen has already filed for a forensic audit. The courts are investigating. The courts are investigating you, sweetheart, for embezzlement and fraud. That's when I realized he'd filed his own complaint against me. Probably the same day he received our legal notice. It was checkmate, or so he thought. I left, grabbed my coat, my purse, my car keys. Marcus followed me out. Emma, wait. He forged my signature. I was shaking so hard I could barely get my key in the ignition. He created fake documents and everyone believed him. Everyone. Not everyone. I believe you, and Mom didn't say a word. She just sat there. Marcus pulled out his phone. I took pictures of the documents he showed everyone. Look. He scrolled through them. Bank withdrawal slips, account transfer authorizations, all with my signature. Except, wait. I grabbed his phone, zooming in. Look at this one, from March 15th. The signature was mine, or a very good forgery, but the date format was wrong. MM/DD/YYYY instead of DD/MM/YYYY. So? Marcus asked. I lived in England for 6 months during college, junior year abroad, remember? I got in the habit of writing dates the European way. I still do it. On everything. Checks, forms, all of it. It's automatic. I pulled out my wallet, showed him a receipt I'd signed last week. November 22nd, 2024. Written as 22nd of November, 2024. He wouldn't have known that, Marcus breathed. He never paid enough attention to notice. But a handwriting expert would. We drove to an all-night diner called Mr. Chen from the parking lot. He answered on the third ring, sounding concerned. Emma, what happened? I told him everything. The Thanksgiving ambush, the forged documents, the date format. Can you get me copies of those documents? He asked immediately. Marcus took photos. Send them to me, right now. I'll have our handwriting analyst look at them first thing Monday morning. Monday's 4 days away. I know, but Emma, this is good. He made a mistake, a fixable, provable mistake. He got desperate and sloppy. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Come to the house. I didn't go to the house. I went to Mr. Chen's office instead, where his handwriting analyst, a woman named Dr. Patricia Morrison, who testified in over 200 fraud cases, spent 3 hours examining the signatures. These are forgeries, she said finally. Excellent forgeries, I'll grant him that, but forgeries nonetheless. The pressure points are wrong. the flow of the strokes. And you're right about the dates. That's a tell that only someone who knows your handwriting intimately would catch. Can you prove it in court? Absolutely. I can provide a detailed report with analysis of at least 15 distinct discrepancies between these signatures and your authenticated signatures from other documents. The forensic audit Mr. Chen had requested came back on December 3rd. 47 pages of financial records, transaction histories, and account analysis. The conclusion was devastating. For my father. Between March and November, Richard Castellano had made 11 separate unauthorized withdrawals from the family trust, totaling $38,400. Every single withdrawal had been transferred into his personal checking account within 72 hours. No estate expenses, no Nevada property taxes, no probate complications, just theft. But the audit revealed something even worse. He'd been doing it for years. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $1,200 there, dating back almost 3 years. Always from Marcus's and my accounts, never from Jake's. The total? $67,890. Nearly $70,000 of our inheritance, gone. Mr. Chen filed an emergency motion to freeze all trust accounts and remove my father as trustee. The hearing was scheduled for December 10th. I spent the week in a fog, took sick days from work, ignored calls from family members, some supportive, most accusatory. My Aunt Lisa left a voicemail calling me a disgrace to your grandfather's memory. Uncle Tom sent a text, I always knew you were trouble. Only 3 people reached out with unconditional support, Marcus, Rachel, and surprisingly, my cousin Sophie. Sophie's text came at 2 a.m. on December 8th. I believe you. I've been thinking about some weird stuff Dad said about Uncle Richard. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop the next morning. Sophie was 26, worked in marketing, had always been the family's golden child. Pretty, successful, engaged to a lawyer. What weird stuff? I asked. She pulled out her own phone, scrolling through old texts. Last year, my dad mentioned that Uncle Richard had borrowed money from him. Like, a lot. $50,000. Said it was for a business opportunity that fell through. Did your dad ever get paid back? No, and when I asked about it a few months ago, Dad got really defensive, told me to drop it, that it was family business, and I shouldn't worry about it. The pieces started clicking together. Sophie, what if he's in financial trouble? What if all of this, the trust withdrawals, the lies, what if he's desperate? Then why not just tell you, ask for help? Because that would require admitting weakness, admitting failure. And Richard Castellano would rather destroy his own daughter than admit he wasn't the successful, untouchable businessman he pretended to be. The courthouse was brutally cold on December 10th, one of those winter days where the heating barely works and everyone's breath comes out in clouds. Marcus and I sat on one side of the courtroom with Mr. Chen. My father sat on the other with his own attorney, a shark-faced man in a $3,000 suit who probably charged more per hour than I made in a week. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Hendricks, with sharp eyes and a reputation for not tolerating bullshit. Mr. Chen presented our evidence methodically, the forensic audit, the bank records showing transfers to my father's personal account, Dr. Morrison's handwriting analysis, 11 years of my authenticated signatures versus the 11 forged documents my father had produced. The date format thing? The judge actually smiled at that. So you're telling me, Judge Hendricks said, looking at my father's attorney, that your client forged these withdrawal authorizations but didn't realize his daughter uses European date formatting? The attorney shifted in his seat. Your Honor, the prosecution has not definitively proven. The prosecution has proven it quite definitively, actually. Dr. Morrison's analysis is compelling. But let's move on. Mr. Castellano, can you provide documentation of the estate expenses you claimed necessitated these withdrawals? My father stood, still confident, still performing. Your Honor, the documentation exists. However, much of it is tied up in ongoing litigation regarding my father's Nevada property. I'm not interested in excuses, Mr. Castellano. I'm interested in receipts, invoices, proof of payment to attorneys, tax authorities, probate courts. Surely, if you withdrew $67,000 over 3 years for legitimate expenses, you kept records? Silence. Mr. Castellano? Some of the records have been misplaced. How convenient. Judge Hendricks shuffled through papers. I've reviewed the audit report. I've seen the bank statements. Mr. Chen, do you have the transfer records showing movement from the trust to Mr. Castellano's personal account? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Chen approached with highlighted documents. March 15, 2024. Trust withdrawal of $12,000. March 17, 2024. Deposit of $12,000 into Mr. Castellano's personal checking account at the same bank. He continued through every single transaction. The dates matched perfectly. The amounts matched perfectly. It was impossible to deny. My father's attorney tried anyway. Your Honor, my client maintains that these transfers were temporary. He intended to repay. With what funds? Judge Hendricks interrupted. Mr. Chen, didn't your investigation reveal that Mr. Castellano's business has been operating at a loss for the past 18 months? Yes, Your Honor. Castellano Properties filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection last month. The courtroom went silent. I hadn't known that. Marcus hadn't known that. From the look on Mum's face in the gallery, she hadn't known either. Mr. Castellano, Judge Hendricks said, you stole from your own children to cover business losses. Then, when confronted, you attempted to frame your daughter for your crimes by forging her signature on false documents. Do you have anything to say? My father's mask finally cracked. I built that business from nothing. 30 years of my life. I wasn't going to lose it because of a bad economy and some predatory lenders. You needed to steal from your children? It was supposed to be temporary. I was going to pay it back before they turned 25. No one would have ever known. Except you got caught, and instead of taking responsibility, you doubled down. You fabricated evidence. You attempted to ruin your daughter's reputation. She was trying to destroy me, filing lawsuits, making accusations. She was trying to protect her inheritance, which was her right, and she was correct in her suspicions. Judge Hendricks delivered her ruling. Immediate removal of my father as trustee, appointment of an independent trustee to manage the remaining funds, full restitution of all misappropriated money within 90 days, and a criminal referral to the district attorney for embezzlement and forgery. You're lucky your daughter isn't pressing for jail time, Judge Hendricks added, though after what you put her through, she'd be well within her rights. The fallout was nuclear. Mum filed for divorce 3 days after the hearing. She'd been sitting in that courtroom, learning for the first time that her husband was bankrupt, that he'd been stealing from their children, that the comfortable life she'd been living was built on fraud and lies. She moved out the week before Christmas into Aunt Carol's guest room, called me on December 23rd. I'm sorry. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. For not believing you, for not protecting you, for everything. Mom, I let him control me for 27 years. I let him control you and Marcus. I convinced myself that staying silent was the same as keeping the peace. But it wasn't peace. It was just fear. We cried together over the phone, made plans for Christmas, just the three of us, at Marcus's apartment in Berkeley. No extended family, no performances, no lies. The family fractured along predictable lines. Uncle Tom and Aunt Lisa refused to speak to me, convinced I'd somehow orchestrated my father's downfall to steal the trust for myself. Grandma sent a card with a check for $500 and a note that said, "I believe you. I'm sorry I didn't say so sooner." Sophie became one of my closest friends. She'd started asking her own questions about her parents' finances, about the patterns of control and secrecy that had defined our family for decades. Jake surprised me. He called in January. "I need to tell you something about why Dad never touched my trust account." Turned out, my father had promised Uncle Tom he'd leave Jake's inheritance alone if Tom forgave the $50,000 loan. Hush money, essentially, by Tom's silence about the bankruptcy and financial troubles in exchange for protecting his son's money. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was stealing from you and Marcus. If I had... I know, it's okay. But it wasn't really. Not yet. Forgiveness takes time. My father paid back $42,000 by February, liquidating what was left of his personal accounts and selling his car. The remaining $25,890 is coming in monthly installments as part of his bankruptcy settlement. I'll believe it when I see it. The criminal charges are still pending. His attorney is negotiating a plea deal, probation and restitution in exchange for avoiding jail time. Part of me wants to fight it, wants him to face real consequences, but the bigger part of me just wants it to be over. I turned 25 on March 3rd. The trust finally transferred into my name, what's left of it. $68,240 thanks to the restitution and continued growth. Not the $83,000 it should have been, but enough. Enough to pay off my student loans, enough for a down payment on a small house someday. Enough to breathe. Marcus turns 25 next year. He's already planning what to do with his share, invest half, use the rest to fund his research on sustainable agriculture. He's going to be fine, better than fine. Mum's working now, first job in 26 years, at a non-profit that helps domestic abuse survivors. She says the irony isn't lost on her. Says she's finally understanding that financial abuse was just another way he controlled her. She's braver than I ever gave her credit for. As for me, I'm okay. Some days are harder than others. Some days I see a father and daughter having lunch together and feel this sharp, unexpected grief for something I never actually had. Other days I feel nothing but relief. Last week I was having coffee with Rachel when she asked me the question I'd been avoiding. Do you think you'll ever talk to him again? Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is this. I spent 24 years believing that family meant loyalty at any cost. That keeping the peace was more important than telling the truth, that I should be grateful for scraps of attention from a man who saw me as either an asset to manage or an obstacle to overcome. But that Thanksgiving dinner, sitting in that room while 23 people judged me, doubted me, believed I was capable of stealing from my own family, it shattered something. Or maybe it clarified something. Family isn't supposed to feel like a courtroom where you're constantly defending your worth, and loyalty isn't the same as silence. The speech I wish I'd given that night, standing there in my mother's perfect dining room while my father painted me as a thief, would have been simple. I know what I am, I know what I'm worth, and I know the truth. Whether you believe me or not doesn't change any of that. But I've learned something better than the perfect comeback. I don't need their belief to know my own value. The family trust that was supposed to secure my future became the thing that nearly destroyed it. but fighting for it, refusing to accept my father's lies, refusing to let him steal my inheritance and my reputation, taught me something he never could. I am not the things he said about me. I am not weak for asking questions. I am not paranoid for trusting my instincts. I am not a thief. I am the person who stood up, who gathered evidence, who fought back even when it meant losing the illusion of family unity. And that person? She's worth a hell of a lot more than $30,000. If you're in a situation where someone is gaslighting you, making you doubt your own reality, your own truth, please trust yourself. Document everything. Find people who believe you. And know that choosing yourself over toxic family loyalty isn't selfish. It's survival.